Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're continuing our series in the Player's Handbook talking about spellcasting. We're talking about the Sorcerer right now, arguably one of the most powerful arcane casters in the game, right up there next to Wizards and Warlocks in the fact that they can twist their magic with their meta magic, learn all sorts of spells that are exclusive to arcane casters, and we're on level 3 now. Character level 5 is when you get your 3rd level spells. And this is a big turning point. Lots of martials are getting extra attack, and we're talking about 3rd level spells here because they are a big jump in power from the ones that came before them. This is when magic really starts to sing. And there are so many good spells at this level for all sorts of purposes that honestly picking a top 5 is tricky. It's really hard to go wrong at this level, so many of them are good, but I have managed to pull together a top 5 list, 2 for combat, 2 for utility, and 1 honorable mention that I think really shine as examples of how the Sorcerer can truly use their magic to the best of their ability. Before we get into the details, though, I'd like to let you know, Relaxed Fantasy Review has memberships. For just $1 a month, you can support me here on YouTube and get a couple benefits. You get a little badge next to your name in the comments, letting folks know you're a supporter. You get early access to my videos a day before everyone else, and you get VIP access in my community Discord, where I've been sharing some of my homebrew ideas recently. If any of that sounds interesting to you, you can click the join button. It's just down there next to the subscribe button. And if it doesn't interest you, that's fine as well. The general chat rooms in the Discord are free for everyone to join. And honestly, just being here, watching the video, liking and subscribing to the channel, these are all wonderful ways to support me. So thank you for watching my content here on YouTube. Starting in the combat side of the house, this is one of those spells that I have to mention every time it comes up, Counterspell. Counterspell is an arcane caster's dream. Basically, anytime you see another creature casting a spell with any components, verbal, somatic, material, whatever, you use your reaction and interrupt the casting. They get to make a Constitution saving throw. If they fail it, then the action or whatever they use to cast the spell is wasted and the spell does not take effect. In the new Counterspell, it has nothing to do with what level you cast it at. You can cast it at the 3rd level spell every single time, and they always make the same save. The only real downside to this spell is that no longer is the spell slot wasted. If you interrupt their casting of it, they get to keep their spell slot. So there is some argument to say that on their next turn they could just try again, but wasting a creature's turn is nothing to scoff at, and interrupting a fireball or a lightning bolt or some other, big spell that's going to really harm your party is a huge boon. It's a shame that it doesn't work on magic effects, it only works on spell casting, but still, if you can take Counterspell, you probably should, especially if you're in a campaign with other casters. So I give it number 2 in the combat list. Number 2 in the utility list goes to a sleeper hit, Major Image. Major Image allows you to fill a 20-foot cube, which is the size of our gargantuan creature, or a small structure, with an illusion. The illusion has all of the normal sensory things, sound, smell, any sort of, thing that a person would expect, and the image looks real. It looks like it absolutely exists. The only thing you can't do is walk up and touch it. As a magic action on later turns, you can actually move the illusion around, making it act as it normally would. This means that as long as you're concentrating on it, Major Image just looks like a real thing, a creature, an object, whatever you want it to. It can really be a creative way to scare or mislead creatures outside of combat. Even in combat, it could be useful in theory. One of the cool things about Major Image, though, is that it's a 3rd level spell, which is awesome. But if you upcast it just once to a 4th level or higher spell slot, not only does the spell become permanent, it doesn't have a duration anymore, it doesn't take concentration anymore, you can still use your action to command it as long as you're within 120 feet of it. This means that if you're willing to blow some of your higher level spell slots during a setup day, you can set yourself up Basically, an entire area filled with illusions that you can command with an action as long as you're close enough to them. This is one of those amazing, out of combat setups that you can use to create cover for yourself, to create illusions that can mislead and send enemies the wrong way, things that can cause obscurement. There's so much you can do with this that it just has to go in the number 2 spot. It is such a useful spell, and if you haven't played around with illusions in D&D, I highly recommend giving it a try. There's so many things, so many creative applications. Okay, before we get to the number 1s, I'll throw my honorable mention out here. It is the spell Slow. Battlefield control is often cited in D&D as one of the most powerful things that a full caster can do. Obviously, they can blast people with damage and do all sorts of battlefield, tricks, but the idea that you can control slowing down your enemies is a fantastic way to use your action and your concentration. Slow is one of the best examples of this battlefield control tactic. You can choose up to 6 creatures in a 40-foot cube, and you choose them. So you can drop this right on top of your allies and just pick the enemies out that you want to affect. They make a wisdom save, 1 save. If they fail it, they are affected by the spell for the next minute. It does all sorts of things. It robs them of taking reactions. Big boom. They can't make opportunity attacks anymore. If they're spellcasters, they can't cast counterspell anymore. Their speed is cut in half. Usually, creatures have 30-foot movement speeds. This drops that to 15. Holy crap. Then, they can only take an action or a bonus action on their turn, not both. This is a big deal considering that lots of monsters in the new Monster Manual have bonus actions. If they want to make an attack and they have multi-attack, no they don't. Slow makes it so that no matter how many attacks you would naturally make, you only make 1. So it greatly reduces creatures that have lots of attacks efficiency. And finally, if they do cast a spell, they have a 25% chance of failing if it has somatic components, as they may make the somatic component gestures. That's what somatic components are. They're magical gestures. Too slowly for the spell to work. It's a 1 in 4 chance, but still, that's a 1 in 4 chance that you won't need to counterspell them. Slow is, it's so many things at once for a single failed saving throw. Now, it doesn't do anything if they succeed the save, so it is a save or suck effect, but it's such a powerful save or suck effect that can affect multiple creatures on the battlefield, greatly swinging the combat in your favor. I give this my honorable mention for this level. But if we're talking about combat power, it's really hard to talk about 3rd level spells without discussing the absolute classic, the meme itself, Fireball. Fireball is my number 1 pick for sorcerers, especially when they use their meta magic to empower it. Fireball is a simple spell. Creates a big explosion in a 20-foot radius, so that's a 40-foot area on the battlefield, same as the slow spell. When you cast it, creatures make a dexterity saving throw, including your allies, unfortunately, but, they make the dex save, and if they fail it, they take 8d6 fire damage. That is an average of 28 damage per creature in a huge area. This means that if you are facing creatures, you're level 5. You see, the goblin horde coming at you, you drop a fireball in the middle of it, half those goblins are dead, at least. If you see the hobgoblin captain with his soldiers coming at you, drop the fireball, he's wounded, most of his guys are dead. If the kobolds are coming at you, the examples go on. The bandits, the mercenaries, if you're a bad guy, the guards. There's so many situations at this level of play when you've got one big guy and lots of smaller minions. Fireball is the answer for this situation. You want to use it to clear rooms of smaller creatures. I have seen people use fireballs and literally kill over a dozen enemies in one shot just because the fireball did so much damage that it was able to knock out the smaller enemies even when they succeeded their save. Think about this. An average of 28 damage. Your average goblin, kobold, mercenary, whatever, has less than 14 hit points. This means that even if you roll the average amount of damage on the fireball and they succeed on their saving throw, they're still taking 14 damage. That's probably enough to kill them. It's not going to do a lot against bigger enemies like boss monsters, but it's okay because you're wiping out all of their help. This lets everyone focus fire on the big guy without having to worry about the little guys. So, Fireball's a meme for a reason. It's one of the strongest spells of this level, and it continues to be relevant throughout the later levels of the game, especially since when you upcast it, you do more damage, and it continues to be a minion wiper throughout the game, and there's a reason that it's a meme. So I give it number 1 in combat for its iconicness and its power. But I do think that there's another spell that can match up to it in the utility side of the house, and that is the spell Fly. For all the times that a fireball can clear a battlefield for you, Fly can solve a problem just as often. The Fly spell lets you get a flying speed. You can get a flying speed of 60 feet, which is immensely fast. Faster than your average horse can run. And it lets you fly through the air for 10 minutes with your concentration. This means that you can bypass obstacles all over the place. You can get around traps, you can get around walls, you can get around basically anything that is in the open air, and lots of things that are in dungeons like pit traps and whatnot. It also helps you in combat. The idea that you're a sorcerer with low hit points and no armor means that you do not want to get snuck up on and get caught. If you've got the Fly spell on you, you can go above the battlefield and just start blasting people with your other spells, and what are they going to do? Shoot arrows at you? I mean, they might, but it greatly reduces the effectiveness of melee creatures if they can't hit you in melee, which is how the majority of creatures fight. There's also the fact that when it's upcast, you can cast it on more than one creature. If you're in a party of 4, you can cast this with a 5th level spell slot and get 3 out of the 4 parties off the ground. Anyone who uses range attacks, any caster who wants to be casting from a distance, basically anyone other than the Raging Barbarian who wants to be in the fray, and let's be honest, a flying barbarian's terrifying too. But yeah, you upcast it, you get multiple allies plus yourself in the spell, and next thing you know, the whole party's flying. It's such a good spell for both solving problems, surviving combat, and getting around any sort of obstacle. Flying speeds are very, very strong. There are some species in the game who get flight naturally, just as because they have wings, and a lot of those species are banned in D&D tables because they're too strong. They trivialize a lot of issues. In my last campaign, literally the one that I just finished, there was a sorcerer who had really low dexterity and abysmal rolls on their constitution. They had hit points that really was scary for their level, like scary low. And they were a flying creature, and they managed to survive the game just because of the nature of the fact that they could fly. They were able to get above battlefields, and most of the time were not really in that much danger. There, of course, were exceptions, and in those situations, it was a tricky time for them, but most of the time they were safe. So I think that the Fly spell deserves a spot in the number 1 slot because of just how broken flight can be. If a DM has a person who's a frequent flyer, whether because they're a flying species or with using the Fly spell, there are ways to make the game challenging. Flying enemies is a great way to do it, and of course enemies with ranged attacks. But, it's supposed to be a big boon to the player, and so I give it number 1 in utility. And yeah, that's it. If you are a level 5 sorcerer and you're uncertain what spells to take, Fireball is a classic for a reason. I would take it. Counterspell is also a classic for a reason. I would take it. If you want some out-of-combat stuff, Major Image is incredible. Fly is one of the best utility spells in the game. And if you're really wanting to control the battlefield rather than be a blaster, Slow, it's hard to go wrong with a slow spell. It's so good. And yeah, I hope that helps. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, and keep your eyes peeled for more spellcasting reviews coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.